Hello, beautiful souls. I'm your host, Nicole, and welcome to the Intuition Age. My intention for this podcast is to cultivate a sacred space where we can collectively evolve into higher states of conscious and self-awareness. I believe that the sustenance and purpose of our being is already located within the depths of our souls. We just have to rediscover and realign with it. It's time to go inward to find all the answers, clarity, and knowledge we seek. So let's journey within. Autumn in all of its glory is upon us. The start of the coldest half of the year has officially begun for us in the Northern Hemisphere anyways. And with the seasonal changes come the festive celebrations, including my favorite holiday, Halloween. And beyond the costumes, candy, and spooky decor, Halloween has this riveting, rich, ancient history that few are aware of. Halloween, as we know it, actually originates from an ancient European Celtic fire festival known as Samhain. Samhain correlates with the natural cycles of Earth and marks the ending of the summer season while celebrating the beginning of winter and all the restoration and relaxation it entails. Halloween stems from the spiritual and supernatural aspects of Samhain. It is believed that the veil between our world and the spirit world is thinnest during this time. So human spirits and other outwardly beings can cross over into our reality with ease. The thinning veils allow for interactions and remembrances of ancestors that have passed on. And scary costumes were actually worn in ancient cultures to deter ill-intentioned beings from entering your space. With this contrasting nature, the summer and the winter, the light and the dark, the living and the dead, Halloween really invites us to honor the duality of the natural world where we must acknowledge dark. So things like the unknown, stillness, receptive energy, just as much as the light. So the known, life, action, outward directed energy. I have two divine guests on this episode, Kendall and Kelsey, and they will be sharing their journey of remembering, including their pagan roots, connection to Mother Earth, and ancient Celtic traditions. Now, let's thin the veil between this intro and the episode. Hi, Kendall. Hi, Kelsey. Welcome to the Intuition Age.
Hello. Having us.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. So this is actually my first episode with two guests. So I definitely want both of you to introduce yourselves and kind of tell me about what you both do, what your modalities are, and so everyone knows they are sisters.
And we're actually not blood sisters, but we just call ourselves
sisters.
And I was like, oh.
So they're sisters.
There we go. That's funny though. It could be.
I thought you guys were like biological sisters. That's what I assumed.
That'd be fun if we were doing this work together as like blood sisters.
Sisters? Yeah. So what work do you both do together?
Yeah. So together we created something called Earth School Collective. It's still kind of in its infancy in a sense. But both of our missions essentially are helping people to remember. And this means so many different things. And in this iteration of our mission, it's helping people remember their connection to the earth, to their cyclical nature, and how that is synced up with that of the earth.
Oh, so beautiful. So
Yes.
How exactly do you help others achieve that? Like, how do you remember?
Well, we started a program at the beginning, right when COVID hit, actually, in March, and we had intended it to be a year-long program to go through the Celtic wheel of the year, the pagan calendar, and to practice with the different Sabbaths to attune with the cycles of the earth, to connect with the moon cycles and how that connects with our daily and for women, monthly cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the process, like Kendall said, it's still in its innocent phase, but really it is being birthed through us. And we have done a lot of healing work on our own, healing past traumas. And we fully believe that as humans, the more we heal, the more we stay in our highest alignment, the more we ground our feet and remember our innate potency and power lies within the cycles of the earth.
Of course. And you said you do this through kind of the lens of paganism. So could we just talk about how you actually got involved in paganism and what exactly it entails and what does it mean to be pagan?
You want to take it, Kendall? You want me to?
We can both share. So now you have quite a long journey with it. So yeah, I'm excited to hear how you frame it. For me personally, I consider myself a witch, and I use that term as a reclamation. It's not what women called themselves in the day when they were burned, but it's a remembrance, using that word as a remembrance. And I consider myself pagan, although I don't follow a specific tradition or lineage. So to me, being a witch, working within paganism, it's an earth-based tradition. It's earth-focused for me. I work deeply with the earth, with plants, with the cycles, with spirit. It's a communion with spirit and myself, and spirit manifest in all things. And that's how I personally approach it.
Did you know you always wanted to be pagan? Was that something that you felt like you always embodied your whole life? Or was it something over like soul discovery that you found you really aligned with?
It took a lot of unlearning and unlayering. I actually grew up in a Baptist school, so it was very strict and very anti-pagan anything. Like pagan was like the devil. So it's very polar opposite of what I grew up with. I could not have imagined myself calling myself a witch or being here. I was very brainwashed in that realm, and then had a period of when I consider myself like not believing in anything, and then things started coming online, things started awakening. I started meeting people like Kelsey, and was like, oh, this whole new world of like magic, and wow, the earth is real, like trees are beings, and so it just changed everything.
Beautiful. I actually, I grew up Christian as well. And so it was a lot of unlearning for me. But I remember as my healing journey has progressed these past 10 years, listening to a podcast. And I remember in my mind, even when I was younger, like, I feel like I'm pagan. I don't even know what that is, but like, I totally feel like I'm pagan. So it's something I've been practicing, I think, for centuries and centuries. And when I finally learned about the Celtic Wheel of the Year and vibing with the different Sabbaths and the celebrations and honoring the earth and the cycles that she goes through and the cyclical death and rebirth within the earth and within ourselves was really, really powerful medicine for me and helped clear out a lot of past trauma. And like Kendall said, a lot of unlearning from this conditioning that we've had in our patriarchal society. And paganism is the honoring of the goddess and the divine mother. It is a feminine, and I shouldn't say it's more based in feminine energy. And it just, for me, feels so yummy and happy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, congratulations to both of you for the unlearning part. I feel like a lot of us get stuck in this collective matrix and we just kind of live our lives, through the lens of what we're kind of like condoned to do. And the fact that both of you were in religion, basically, like that's what you were brought into. That's how you grew up. And the fact that you were able to unlearn what didn't resonate with you innately and found your path, like that is just so incredible.
Thank you.
Like you really can't miss the path that's meant for you. It's like a go from.
I completely agree. Completely agree. So I do want to talk about, did you mention is it called the Celtic Wheel, or what exactly is it called?
Sometimes called the Pagan Wheel of the Year or Celtic Wheel of the Year. Pagan, there's a lot of different like forms of paganism and a lot of like branches of it.
So which branch do you two resonate most with?
Celtic.
Okay. And how is Celtic different than other forms of paganism?
Well, paganism really is the honoring of the earth. So it's just the pagan wheel of the year honors 8 different Sabbats, and it's the markers of the transition of the flow of the cyclical nature of the earth. So we have December 21st, which is Yule, and this is where you set your intentions, and this is associated with the new moon. This is the dark season, the inward time. Then February 1st is Imbolc. And I like to give an indication, I guess, an image of Yule being underground. We're planting our seeds, planting the seeds. Imbolc, February 1st, there's like a little bud starting to come up out of the earth, right? Just like poking its head, saying hello. We're still in the darker times, still kind of inward. And then we have spring equinox, which is March 23rd. And this is all in the Northern Hemisphere. That I'm speaking on right now, March 21st. And that's when spring, new life, new beginnings are coming out, right? And then we have Beltane, which is May 1st. This is the opposite of Samhain, which we're talking about today, but the veil is also thin at this time. This is the balance between masculine and feminine. We're coming into summer, this full moon energy. And then we have Litha, which is June 20th, 21st, summer solstice, the height of the season. And then, so that's our coming into the sun, coming into the light. And now after summer solstice, the days begin to get shorter again. And the harvest, we're reaping our harvest. We have Lunasa, which is August 1st. This is our first harvest festival. Mabon, which is September 20th. Fall equinox, and then now we are going to Samhain, and Samhain is actually the witch's new year. So this is the end of the fall festivals, the harvest festivals, and now we're in the death cycle. So continuously we are dying and being reborn every single year, and this is something that has been practiced before any sort of organized religion that came in. People living with harmony of the land. I don't even know what your question was, but that's just kind of
me neither. Honestly, at this point, I'm just so memorized by this cycle, how natural it is. And just the fact that, each year we honestly have the opportunity to be reborn and plant those seeds right at the beginning and go through this cycle of birth and then rebirth. And I have chills talking about that. Just the fact that I feel like many of us don't even fully embody our connection to the earth. It's right there as we grow. Literally, the earth is growing with us each year. And why don't we start integrating that into our lives?
Yes, that was beautiful. And that's what Kendall and I really, it's the embodiment. We're our mission is to help people embody their natural potency and power. And that's being connected with the earth. And Kendall is a beautiful, beautiful herbal creatrix. And so has really implemented that into the program as well.
I think one of my favorite things about moving into aligning with, I guess, paganism or just earth-based reality is that I now live life as ceremony. So not just do we have that full wheel of the year cycle, but that happens on a lunar scale as well. It's reflected in the lunar cycle, the new moon, like Kelsey said, being that winter energy, and the full moon being the summer energy, and waxing and waning being the in-betweens. And then us woman-bodied peoples, our menstrual cycle then mirroring that as well. Our menstruation or moon time being the new moon, being inner winter, and then our follicular phase being our inner spring, and our ovulation being our summer, and then our luteal or premenstrual being the fall, being the wild woman, being the waning moon. We get to rebirth all the time.
So with all these cycles of rebirth, are there specific traditions for each one, or even rituals that you do? Just a brief overview of kind of rituals or traditions that you celebrate during each of these cycles.
Each of the menstrual or moon cycles, or the seasonal, or?
Oh, do you have, I guess you have for both, right? Let's maybe talk about the seasonal first, and then we could talk about the moon.
All right. Well, Kelsey, you want to do the seasonal?
Yeah, seasonal. So we said, I follow the Celtic tradition. So on each Sabbath, I set up an altar and celebrate. And there's many different ancient forms that you can celebrate in. There's certain Sabbaths that are really powerful for witchcraft, to cast spells. If you dabble in Wiccan, a lot of it is just honoring the earth, honoring the harvest. Before industrialization, that's how we got our food. We lived off the land, and to know when to plant, under which moon to plant seeds, when to reap your harvest, celebrating with the people that you love, sharing food, just communing and community-based, and coming together and celebrating what the earth has to offer. Individually, we at Yule, we set our intentions. So I think it's funny how now our American, or I guess you could say like post-Christian celebrations, like we have New Year's Eve, right? I think it's really interesting that New Year's Eve, everybody sets an intention, which is beautiful for the new year. But then you're expected to have the intention going right away, when really we're still in the dark phase. So we set an intention, and then we do the underground work for what we want for our year. And then when spring comes, new life abounds, and we're ready to go out because we've done our inner work. So on an individual level, we set our intentions at Yule, and there's a tradition of a Yule log and sitting by the fire. And it's that energy of Christmas, but more intentionally inward based. And then moving with how we come to summer. Once we get to summer, we see that's that full moon energy. We see where our intentions have been. Say you wanted to start a podcast, you set your intention, and then through that next 6 months, how has that built? How have you built your podcast? How many interviews have you had? And then you see your big scope at the full moon, at the summer solstice, and then kind of go back inward, release what was no longer serving, and then you set intentions again. And then each Sabbath celebrating where you're at in your life and the potency and magic. It reminds you that every day, like Kendall said, is a ceremony, and we can look at magic in everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's like these different scales of, you can have the Sabbath specific rituals, and then there's the energetics of how are you infusing your days with the energy of that season, that part of the cycle, and aligning not just your life, but you could even align like your business with it. Like right now, we are in this phase of completing things and reviewing and starting to slow down before the winter. So like I don't launch anything during the winter. Like I don't start anything during the winter. It just feels really heavy and it feels really hard. So right now I'm just starting, like I'm just looking back at this year and I'm starting to like review, and then this is going to be a visioning process. We're so used to always doing something. Our society is so used to burning out. So on the microcosm and the macrocosm levels, the monthly, the menstrual cycle, and the year long, the seasonal cycles, if you go within during the winter and the inner winter, you will be able to put much more out there in spring and summer. You will be that much more magnetic in summer. You will attract more in summer, but people just barrel through winter and then they're burnt out and then they want to run away and escape during summer.
I think that's such an important point to make too, where if we even listen to our body's natural cycles too, and listen to when we were tired and exhausted and when we just needed to release and relax, I feel like exactly what you were saying, we could be completely more like productive and energized when we need to actually take those initiatives, as opposed to kind of being like subpar throughout the entire year and then not having the real energy, the innate energy that we need to fulfill our goals and our ambitions. So yeah, both listen to ourselves on like a cosmic level and earth level, and then also just like that bodily soul individualized level as well.
Definitely.
Okay, so I do want to get into the topic today because we're filming this like a week before Halloween. And I definitely want to talk, and I hope I don't butcher this again, but Samhain.
Yeah.
Samhain? Yes? Samhain.
Yes.
Yes, so we're going to talk about Samhain. So when exactly did it start? Did the cycle start? Is it all of October?
Well, the energy is building up, but the actual festival of Samhain is the 31st to like 2nd. Yeah. 31st.
Okay. So the energy starts, is it a few weeks before? And then the energy is obviously most potent. The festival is the 31st to 2nd, and then it kind of dwindles down.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be building since the fall equinox. I personally, like you, I think you were mentioning before we hopped on this episode, that like you notice it build up like 2 weeks before. That's kind of when I start to feel the veil thinning. Like I was sitting outside last week, and it's like I could start to see a little bit beyond. Like the air just starts to look different. The air starts to like shimmer a bit, or almost like wave in a way. And last year, it was a week before that I had like spirit encounters happening. So it's building up, and then that 31st to 2nd period is really like the honoring of the ancestors' time, the festival, the celebration period.
And have you both always found that it's always kind of been consistent? So around 2 weeks and 1 week before, then you start feeling like your senses are heightened, that you start tapping into the other side? Or do you feel like it's just been, I don't know, getting prolonged now these past few years? Or do you think there's any kind of like shift in our dimensions recently?
I think there's just in general, there's a shift in our dimensions because we're rising, we're ascending anyways into 4D. So especially 2020, everybody's feeling things on a heightened level. And I also feel that the more healing work that you do, the more you clear past conditioning, past trauma, then you're going to feel it more intensely. You're going to feel the spirit realm more intensely. And if you work with the spirit realm on a day-to-day basis within meditation or whatever, you will feel it more intensely. But yeah, for Samhain especially, it's definitely, I think, like you said, a week or 2 weeks before, just a kind of trippy energy that starts to happen. Like Kendall said, I've been seeing things moving. You'll see little flashes maybe. And it's really not to fear it. Mm-hmm. If you do fear it, where is that fear coming from? Why are you fearful of that?
So let's talk about what the festival actually is. So what do you two practice on the 31st to the 2nd?
Well, just speaking a bit to some of the history of it, like in the ancient traditions, it's the last of the harvest festivals. And there was this tradition that people would let their fires, their hearths burn out during this final harvest. And then they would have this big communal fire created. And people would then go get fire from the communal fire and bring it back to their hearth and relight it. Samhain. They knew that there were more spirits around, that the veil was thinner, and they would actually wear costumes of like monsters and whatnot to themselves from the spirits, and leave food out as like an offering to the spirits. There's some thoughts or traditions that there was like fairies about, and people didn't want to get kidnapped, so they would wear costumes to like hide themselves. And there are celebrations of the forms. A lot of the pagan things have been passed on. People just don't know where it's from. Mm-hmm. But personally, I love to take the time to honor ancestors, especially since the veil is so thin. Last year I had like my grandma come through very strong during this period. So setting up an altar, taking time to honor, give prayer, and also have a fire celebration, which Kelsey and I are going to be at like an off-grid location this year. And hopefully, there's a lot of fires in California right now, but hopefully we can have some little fire candles or something. But,
yeah. Kelsey, was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I love Samhain so much. It just makes me really happy. I save, so I work with the moon as well. Every month I will always do a new moon intention. So I save majority of my new moon intentions. And at Samhain, I burn everything. So it's a completion, that really diving into that death process and releasing my year. So then I can go inward and figure out what my new intentions are at Yule. I set up altars and honor my ancestors, offer food. 1 year, my grandma asked to enter my body, and I was kind of new into it all, and I said yes, and it freaked me out. And then I was like, no, stop. And then it was interesting because she was a cigarette
Was that the
smoker.
first time you had a spirit enter your body?
Yeah, that was for me. That was the first time I had a spirit enter my body, and it was intense. I could feel her, and ever since then, she's really been with me. I've had to clear out of her. Like I would say, she's a smoker, so it was interesting. I started smoking a lot of cigarettes after that because she was kind of moving through my being to enjoy this human experience. So, with witchcraft, with Wiccan, with spell work, with this energy, just be very, very, very careful. If you don't know a lot, that's a big thing for me. You know, I didn't know, I was dabbling and I didn't realize, and I stopped it too fast. So do your research before asking any sort of spirit to enter into you.
It takes a lot of discernment. Like, definitely don't play around in the spirit world. Like, prayer and all of that is safe, and like, I mean, maybe don't go try and do mediumship if you haven't had support with it.
Do you have any recommendations for people, especially around this time, who they are noticing that their senses are heightened? They are seeing things and hearing things and getting visitations. How exactly do you protect your soul and your energetic body and even your physical body from maybe visitations and interactions with, well, honestly, with any spirit? They're in a different realm. It does feel different, but like especially maybe lower density, lower vibrational beings.
I think what a lot of people don't realize is that, like with humans, you can also set boundaries with the spirit world, and it's very important. And if you don't have boundaries or things are kind of wish-washy, it's also a great opportunity to look at your waking reality and where are you wish-washy and not setting boundaries and like playing out codependency there. And just know you have sovereignty. You have internal power. You get to have say over your domain, which is your spirit, your body, and your space.
And you can say, you know, it's really about taking your own power back. Like she said, we're all sovereign beings. So if you do feel a spirit, you can say, I command that any energy that is not mine, leave me now. If they feel a spirit, you can ask, are you benevolent or malevolent? If they're malevolent, they won't answer. Bubbles of protection, start doing and if you're a sensitive being anyways, hopefully you're doing these protection practices daily just because of the realm that we live in. But a big one has been, you know, just stand your ground. You are not welcome here. And when you say that, they will leave because they have to honor that boundary within you.
And if you have a preference, you can say how you want to interact with spirits. Like a couple of years ago when I saw a spirit for the first time, I wasn't ready for that. So I was like, nope, like I don't want that anymore. Like, let's not do that. And I had a lot of fear around everything that was happening. I started like hearing voices. I started like seeing things. And I had to really work through that internal fear and recognize that I had power within me and I had the ability to protect myself. And grounding, like that last year became one of my most important tools so I could like be here in this body on this earth. And something I do what Kelsey mentioned before bed every night, like command anything out of my space because I don't want anything like popping up while I'm sleeping. And every day I call back all of my pieces. I send away any pieces, fragmented pieces of other people I'm carrying, cut cords, and I call back any of my pieces. And I just say, like, I call back all of my pieces from all corners of the universe, all space-time dimensions, back to this 0 point. And I feel an energetic shift as soon as I do that. It feels like, okay, I'm in my body. So there's a lot of different energetic ways you can protect yourself.
So how do you find that balance between, especially around this time, like honoring, especially your loved ones that have passed on, but also kind of grounding yourself and protecting yourself and still making sure that you're secure and whole? Is it sometimes difficult to find a balance between that?
I don't feel like it now. I used to feel like that. I don't know. Kelsey?
Yeah, I think just discernment. It's about knowing yourself and what feels good to your body, and having pictures of your ancestors, calling them in by their names, by their full names. So sitting in a ceremony, if you want to do a ceremony, create a sacred space, call in the ancestors that you want to honor by their full names, bring food that they enjoyed, that they liked, And then before you do that, put that protective bubble around yourself and know that you're protected. I think that's the biggest thing, is this back and forth. Well, is it good or bad? I don't know if I'm protected. You really are. You have the power. Mm-hmm. And just always remember that you have that innate power within you.
The best pieces of advice I got too was that love is the greatest protection. So just talking out things that you love, people that you love, bringing that feeling of love sensation to your heart, and then feeling it expand past your body. I had like a spirit attached to me right after Samhain last year, and someone helped me cross it over. And that was what really helped me through that process, because it was very tricky.
And yeah, just Kendall, to add on to that, just embody that universal love energy and force, as opposed to going in feeling fearful and feeling more low vibrational frequencies, because that does impact who approaches you, who comes into your projected reality. And we definitely want to make sure that everyone who does is only of the highest vibrations. So have either of you ever been in a position where maybe your frequency was a bit lower, or you were acting on fear and embodying that, where you maybe attracted just like lower density, lower vibrational interactions or beings?
Yeah. I remember a couple of years ago having an experience that kind of shook me. And in this particular one, it wasn't like I saw something externally, but it was a very vivid, real experience for me. I was listening to a guided hypnosis audio before bed, and during that, I just remember seeing this image in my mind's eye of an Egyptian dog face, which later I looked it up and realized oh, that's what Anubis looks like, which is the guardian of the dead. And I just could not get it out of my mind, and it was really uncomfortable. I never had felt something like that before. It was a lot more vivid than my thought images look like. And anyways, I kind of got it out eventually. I went to bed, and the next morning I woke up and was trying to meditate, and just had this overwhelming sense of fear come in that I could not shake. So I had to finish meditating with my eyes open, because when I had my eyes closed, it just perpetuated this fear sensation. And I couldn't really finish. I got up and was like, okay, fine. I'm just going to walk to the bathroom. And as I'm walking to my bedroom door, I have my eyes open, but in my mind's eye, I see on the other side of the door, this giant figure of a man with no face. It's just skin over the face. And it just felt really not good. It felt scary and dark, and really freaked me out. And I felt something for multiple days in my space. I was using sage and asking it to leave and all of that. But I was just in such a fear state, because I hadn't really experienced much of that at that point, that I didn't feel comfortable going back to my house for multiple days. I stayed with a friend or something, and eventually had to come to this place of okay, I have dominion over my body, my space, and went back and commanded it to leave, and finally felt it was gone. But that place I was living at the time, I also just had quite a lot of experiences there, and that's the first place I saw something externally too. So given there was a lot of things there already, but it did not help that I was in a place of fear.
Yeah.
How about you, Kelsey?
I have, it was probably 6 years ago, my girlfriend was she was seeing something really dark in her apartment. And I was like, well, let's just sage it. Let's just come in and sage it. Whatever.
I feel like that's all of our initial responses.
Yeah. Have you saged yet?
I didn't know the energy of the spirit that was in the house. I was in a way lower frequency at that time. I was drinking a lot. I was not connected the way that I am now. I was still, in the process of healing, but so we go over there. Her mom is Native American and very in tune. She's a medium. She wasn't there, but I go there and I'm saging and terrified, because I could feel the energy of this darkness. And her mom comes home as we're doing this, and there's this huge Native American chief standing outside the door, just shaking his head, now knowing that was my guide protecting me. And she comes in, she's like, what the fuck are you? Sorry, she's like, what are you
doing?
You
could swear. You could
Oh,
swear.
I could swear. Okay.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? And she's like, this is white girl shit. Like you don't do this. You don't know what you're dabbling in. You don't know what you're messing with. And it was a very, very big reality check for me. And then that night, that entity attached itself to me. When I went home, I woke up and had matches like that. I threw away everything because I was so freaked out, but I had matches like lining my kitchen, and this entity had come into my space, and it took me a while to get rid of it. But that was a really big, when I say in high honorability and in integrity, know what energy you are working with. Like, I don't sage anyone's house anymore because I don't know. Just be, know your own, know that you're coming in a space in highest amount of love. Create that barrier of light around you. Say, I step in with love, and know the energy you're kind of working with, and get trained by people. Ancient wisdom can come through us, but if we don't practice in a higher vibrational state, then we're doing more harm. And I think that's, I don't know. So I don't do that anymore. I don't mess with people's houses anymore. But it was terrifying. I was really scared for a long time. And then I had to get rid of it. It took me a while to get rid of the entity.
And I think too, just with like our journeys towards like personal and spiritual development, we tend to like tap in and explore a lot of different modalities and realms that we ourselves may not necessarily be aligned with and ready for yet. So yes. I know when I was attracting a lot of like lower density entities, I was practicing like all these different ancient modalities. I was looking into like shamanism and Reiki and like so many. And I got like my Reiki certificate and all of this. And basically I wasn't quite projecting the frequencies that were ready to actually practice those modalities. So as my spirituality and my consciousness is heightening, me in this human form is like still drinking and partying and doing like a lot of lower density activities. And literally it's always like I'm astral projecting at night, or I'll see like shadow. It's always like in the middle of the night for me, like see shadow people in front of my closet. I was really attracting a lot of just lower density beings. And I didn't quite understand how, if spiritually I'm like developing and I'm tapping in and tuning into all these incredible ancient healing practices, but then in turn, I'm only attracting lower vibrational beings. It didn't quite make sense. Like now it obviously makes sense, but in the moment I'm like, I'm doing everything right spiritually, but this is what's appearing to me.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's so common because now, like, especially Reiki, it's so widespread and it's so easy to become a master in 3 weeks, right? And
all online. Yeah.
All online. Yeah. And then not getting any further support. It's like you are getting attuned to the spirit world and then you don't really know what to do with it after that. So like Kelsey said, it's great to have like people around, at least, if not like a mentor, at least community that have also experienced it and you can like discuss it with. Like I was with Kelsey the first time I really had a like awakening experience. And I was like, what's going on? I think she activated me, but
so important to have that support system. Because it's true, like you go on Pinterest and you see like Wiccan spells everywhere, and I'm like, it's just
don't do spells off the internet. That's my recommendation.
Right? It's just
personally.
So readily available that you really don't know what you're going to attract, what's there, what you're tuning into, who created those spells. Like, especially when
what energy were they in when they wrote the spells?
Exactly.
Like, I don't use anyone else's spells. I write my own.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and it's part of embodiment. And that's, I think, the biggest aspect is blending, really grounding down. If you want to tap into those spirit realms and if you feel that you've done it in past lives, go with that. Like, yeah, that's probably innate wisdom that you have, but also doing it in a form of integrity and honoring of the practices that have come before and the people that have come before and the stewards of the land. And for me, what I've been realizing is just deeper reverence for the medicine that I practice and fully embodying it. Like you said, I was the same way, Nicole. Like I was doing all this spiritual stuff, but I was drinking and partying. So you're telling the universe two different things.
And not that there's anything wrong with like drinking a bit of alcohol, but Kelsey and I were talking about this with a group that we facilitate recently. Like, be careful about drinking over Samhain because they call it spirits for a reason, and the veil's very thin. So just be mindful. Or if you are going to have a drink, like, be aware of your vibration while you're doing it. Even like charge it with a certain intention, like put your hand over the drink and infuse a higher vibration into it. Anything.
Of course. I think the intention is just so important. So I became really interested with the thinning veils, this topic last year, actually. So yeah, prior, obviously, I've always kind of interacted with other dimensional beings. But for some reason, I had this general consensus that I could see them, I could hear them, like we could definitely communicate, but they couldn't touch me or harm me. So whenever even like a lower density being would appear to me, I'd be like, oh, whatever, like it's just going to stare at me tonight and I could go back to sleep. Like I'm not at harm. And last year, probably like a week before Halloween, like 2 weeks, I started getting really vivid dreams. And I knew like I've astral projected before. So I'm like, half of them weren't even dreams, but a lot of spirits were appearing in my dreams. And basically, I had this one dream for like 2 weeks where I was in this house and I'm going room to room and I'm just trying to find my room. And I didn't belong there. I'm like, which room's mine? I can't find one that I resonate with. Like, I can't find one for me. And I go into this one room. I'll never forget this dream. And there's this doll just sitting at the foot of the bed. I hate dolls.
I know, like the creepy dolls. It's like a horror movie.
It was 100% like out of a horror movie. And right away I knew, I don't know if like a realtor or someone was like taking me around the house, but I look at them and I'm like, that doll's real. I'm like, that's not a doll, that's real. And we make our way down the stairs and this doll chases me. And I'm like, I knew it. Yeah, I knew it. So she chases me down the stairs and it was a really odd dream. Like I go down, it's like almost like a store was there inside the house. And there was like all these beautiful animals that were like locked up. So like elephants, tigers. And I'm like, no, like I need to release them. Like they shouldn't be here. Like they need to leave. And all I see behind me is like this doll chasing me. And I go to the cashier and I'm like, I need these animals to leave. Like they can't be here. They can't be locked up. And the cashier is like, oh, I have to tell you about yourself. And he starts listing off just like all these details about my higher self and like which dimension I exist in and like what my initial incarnation was, and just like listing all these profound details that I needed for my soul discovery. And basically in my human body, I go to sleep always with like an eye mask because I'm so hypersensitive. If I don't, I will literally see like whole activities happening in my room. So I go to sleep with an eye mask. And as he's about to tell me just like the most profound wisdom that I need to hear at that moment, someone in my waking life, in my waking body, moved my eye mask and took it completely off my head for me to wake up so I wouldn't hear.
Wow. You woke up and it had just gotten removed. Yeah.
So do you feel that it was, or could it be you that like did it, or like someone moved?
I felt another hand and essence above me fully down. Like ripped, like I was sleeping on my back and I just felt someone just like rip it completely off my head.
Wow.
And then I got really interested into obviously October, end of October, early November, like that time frame, thinning veils. If I don't know, the veils are thinnest during this time only, or if they're just getting thinner and thinner. What do you guys think?
Well, the veil is, both. And the veil's thinnest at this time. And then also the complete opposite May 1st. So in the Celtic wheel of the year, those are the two where the veil is the thinnest. And I can't speak exactly on like where the planet is. I don't know if that has to do something with it. But that's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's a big one. So like right now in the Southern Hemisphere, we're moving into Beltane, so equal opposite. So like that's happening at the same time right now. And then when we enter Beltane, the Southern Hemisphere is at Samhain. And I do think that it's either getting thinner or we're all just waking up more. I think it's probably the latter. But it is still that, it gets thinner at those points of the year.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I don't really get touched by any other entities or spirits. So I was really taken aback. I was really like fearful about that. Now, obviously, like, I'll ground myself. I'll protect myself before bed. I don't even want to attempt going through that again. But it was definitely something that kind of like shook me because I never expected that they could actually touch me or harm me in any way.
And I hear mixed things. I hear that like they can't really harm us. They can just kind of like fuck with us a bit. But then sometimes I hear about people getting choked in the middle of the night. So it's hard to say. I mean, they can definitely interact, but I have been taught or heard that it takes a lot of energy to interact in that. Like last Samhain, I have this, I know people on the podcast can't see it. I'll show you. I have this image that was by my grandmother's bed when she passed years ago. And I was there the night she passed, like laying in bed with her. And she was definitely like bridging the veil. She was seeing things, she was hearing people. And I have this on my altar right here. And last Samhain, a week before actually, in the early morning, I heard some crash, but I was half asleep. And I was like, whatever, it's probably the wind coming in, knocking something. I'll look at it later. And I wake up, my window's completely closed, and stuff had been knocked off my altar, and this painting had been moved to inside my closet. So like around a corner and completely like turned and propped up against something. And the night before I had like called on her and asked for support because I was like breathing something. I was like, all right, you're here. And then that whole week, twice actually, phones got thrown off of counters. And I had been carrying her ashes around with me. And it was when I had been talking about her to friends and talking about the fact that the painting got moved, that the phones got thrown off the counter. So they can definitely interact in physical ways, but I have, like I said, have heard that it takes quite a lot of energy to do so.
Yeah, I haven't had anyone touch me. I've had that entrance, but.
So do either of you have any more, just like any advice or any other additional stories or information that you want to share with everyone, even in regards to like paganism or just celebrations? And
well, this Samhain is a full moon, so this Halloween, so it's going to be even more potent. So just be aware of that. Protection. And find the magic. I think that's the biggest part with flowing with the moon and the wheel of the year and the earth, is that there's magic in every single moment. And life can be heaven on earth if you choose to do your healing work, transmute the lower vibrations, heal your trauma, and live in love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't let the fear overtake. This is a very beautiful time of the year. It's my favorite time of the year. And however you choose to celebrate, let it be your own. It doesn't have to be, exactly something you look up on Google for Samhain rituals. Just like, how do you feel inspired to connect with your ancestors? How do you feel inspired to celebrate, to honor the earth? Do you want to dress up? Do you want to like go outside under the moon with a fire and gather with friends and dance and play? That's what we're going to be doing. We have a group of 13 of us going into the redwoods and just going to be in ceremony all weekend.
Next time I'm in the States, I definitely want to join. I hope this will be an annual celebration you guys have.
We will.
Okay, Kendall, Kelsey, it was so incredible connecting with both of you. Sisters.
Thank you so much.
That was such a lovely conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with all of us.
Thank you for having us.
If you feel enlightened and inspired by the intuition age, I would be eternally grateful if you head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. This platform truly allows me to act as a catalyst for expanding and elevating human consciousness, both individually and collectively. All shares, downloads, and subscribes help me distribute these divine topics to even more conscious souls. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you at the next episode.